My recommendation for the bottom tier of the catalog would be take it slower, do easier things that can drive incremental revenue that don't take a lot of time. The agency this brand was working with recommended investing more in sponsored display. The problem was they took a shotgun approach and they just generally saved one or two ASINs. It's money on almost every ASIN in the catalog on sponsored display, which was just a mistake. A lot of the ASINs were spending $25, $50 a month and not getting any sales. Okay, on one ASIN, that's not terrible, but when you have like 30 ASINs that are doing that, it's just a waste of money. It isn't going to yield meaningful results.
Hey everyone, welcome back. I am so excited to have Jason from Nectar with us. Jason, we connected on LinkedIn. You've been sharing some amazing stuff, so really great to be touching base on this and talking with you.
Yeah, I appreciate having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, we connected on LinkedIn, I don't remember how long ago. Had a couple calls and very much interested, I think, in what either of us are saying. I actually follow your content. I read pretty much all of your content. You have some really great stuff out there. And thank you. I really liked your post about prioritizing, and maybe we can pull this up, but the essence of it is 80-20. You always hear the Pareto principle, like, all right, we got 80-20 stuff, which I know a lot of people know that they should be doing. I'd love to get your take on how you should be doing this. And I honestly think you outline it really well in this post.
Thank you. I think this post is a good start. I think the first thing that you can do is look at revenue. So you could take the last year or you could take the last 6 months. Part of that is based on your seasonality, relevance, inventory position, right? Your brand. So you should use a time period that's relevant under the circumstances, and then look at the revenue breakdown. You can download your business reports if you're on Seller Central, the retail analytics, or whatever. It seems like there's a new report name every day for Vendor Central. I think they're calling it retail analytics now on Vendor Central, and looking at whether it's ordered revenue, shipped revenue, however you look at it on Vendor Central, and then doing an analysis, what ASINs are driving a majority of your revenue. You can use some basic formulas and to do some comparisons and start bucketing your ASINs based on what ASINs are driving it revenue and which ones are not. I think a lot of times we actually say it's more like 10% than 20, and that's a great starting point, number one. Then you obviously have to factor in profitability and market share.
Yeah.
Where is there room for growth? But the starting point is identifying, okay, what's doing really is why? Is there more room to grow it? And do we want to grow it? You also should look at the bottom too. Yeah. Hey, these are struggling. Why? Is there more room to grow it? If so, how much and what are the competitive barriers? Is it worth investing time in any of these ASINs to get there?
Yeah, I love your point on time frames, because I know when a lot of people talk about this analysis, it's like, all right, go look at like last 30 days, download business reports, like sort highest to lowest, so probably revenue, or you're talking to Vendor Central, you pull other reports for that, and you're basically like, hey, what has recently been performing well for us? But that's something that we put together for a couple of our maybe more enterprise clients on like a big annual review. We basically went and downloaded all of 2022's. And that was something we did. And I'm realizing now, I'm like, oh yeah, that was an 80-20 thing. It was like, hey, what products have performed well for us on certain months? So now going into 2023, not only are you looking at, okay, so this is like my top performer, but some products can have like pretty high seasonality to them. So you're saying like, hey, go past seasonal. That's like an insanely good call out of maybe what's performing last 30 days isn't always your top performer if you're headed into summer. Things change, product lines maybe shift over time, and you're saying like, hey, you probably should go.
Yeah, definitely.
Go check that out.
And also could be like you ran out of stock for a month or low stock.
Yep.
So there's so many different factors. Sometimes Amazon might have pulled your inventory and there was a dip. So it is definitely good to look at. And I would always recommend looking at a significant period of time when doing this analysis, at least 3 months, but it could need to be more based on, especially if you have a very seasonal catalog.
Yeah. Is there any like really good way of figuring out if things were out of stock? I'm trying to think in the business reports. I think there's offer or something where you can see like how many, it's an aggregate and count.
Yeah, so you would have to,
No.
on Seller Central, look at historical inventory reports. We actually download all that information for our full account management clients, so we're able to automate that reporting a little more, or a lot more. It is more
Yeah.
complex if you have major stockouts. Part of that you could still make. I would say the purpose of this exercise is to figure out where should you be putting your time and effort. Again, I think this is step one, and step two is figuring out, okay, where can we grow? So you don't have to be exact. It's really just identifying what's working well, and is it worth leaning into that more, or have we tapped out the? And so you could, hey, we were out of stock for a month on this. Let's increase this revenue number by 10%. Right? I don't think you have to make it perfect to do this exercise well. So I guess I would say invest that time in analyzing the market as opposed to trying to extrapolate what your revenue would have been if you had been in
Yeah.
stock the whole time.
Yeah. So this is like you were saying, like a very high level overview. I love these kind of overviews because sometimes it seems like so simplistic. Like one easy way to do this would be I'm loving percentages of total these days because it gives you such a clear, I don't know, sometimes when you're looking at like the dollar amounts, it doesn't, I don't know, it's not as apparent to me. Maybe I'm just, my brain doesn't think, but it's like, all right, revenue divided by total revenue percentage. Okay, so this is making up 80% of my catalog. Okay, that's a significant number. So therefore, I don't know, it helps you understand the significance of like how much this
Right.
is taking impact. And again, like you were saying, there could be stock outs, there's seasonality, there's so many of these nuances. But I don't know. I love these. Again, it's like very broad overview, black and white. Here's what this is doing because it gives you, again, what you're saying, like really good insights into what you should be focused on. Then go analyzing the market. Like a market analysis, good gosh, that is a
Yeah.
whole can of worms. I don't think there's any really good scalable way to analyze it. Maybe you have a
We've
trick up your sleeve that I don't.
Yeah, it's
But it,
tough. It's time consuming. There are softwares out there. A lot of them are very expensive, like tens of thousands of
mhm.
dollars a year. We've built a system that we're scaling, and we also rely on some other software. I will say that some of the comments I got on this post were like, hey, this is just what happens if like you've tapped out on these top items, or hey, you're really
Mhm.
missing opportunities on the bottom items. That's true, but the reason that your best sellers are typically your best sellers is because they have lots of reviews and they're competitively priced. And the reason your bottom sellers are usually your bottom sellers is because they either don't have a lot of reviews, the overall rating isn't good, or their price is too high, or the quality is not good compared to the competitive. Sometimes that's not the case on either side, but usually it is. We're speaking in generalities here. So that's why it's
Mhm.
easier to scale the top of your catalog because they have those reviews, you have your good overall rating, there's a product market fit based on price and quality. So that's why it typically makes more sense to figure out how you can grow that.
Yeah, I would agree. They
Yeah.
already have the momentum. It's like you're putting more oomph behind something that already gained momentum versus trying to
Yep.
push a rock up a hill with your bottom, and it takes immense amount of effort. And like you said, like understanding that product market fit, maybe you don't have it yet, or maybe it's a market that your offer is not resonating. Maybe you have to completely switch up the offer, which again is an insane amount of effort put towards that. So if a lot of effort versus maybe less effort to make a bigger impact on the account, like it
Yeah,
honestly just
and
makes
I like
sense.
the rock up the hill analogy. There's no guarantee you're getting that rock or that boulder, all the way up the hill. That's the
Yeah.
other part of it too. It's like you could put in all this effort into the bottom and literally you could get next to nothing or maybe even lose money. I'm not, yeah, and I'm not trying to talk anyone
Mm-hmm.
out of doing that. Rather, my recommendation for the bottom tier of the catalog would be take it slower, do easier things that can drive incremental
Mm-hmm.
revenue that don't take a lot of time. Okay, let's set up some basic, maybe low cost auto campaigns or do an SEO copy overhaul that we can do in a batch all at once. Things like that, where, okay, this can move the needle and get it more legs, but you don't have to spend a ton of time or money investing in it.
Yeah, absolutely. One other thing that I find really interesting and we've done for some of our clients when we're talking like percentages of total or like the 80-20 is looking at their kind of 80-20 on products driving profits has been interesting for us. Because what we've found when doing that analysis is oftentimes like the top revenue products, like you're looking at it in just the business report, you're like, oh my gosh, this is the clear winner. Let's drive this one home. Let's push more in ads to drive more sales, which then again, at some point can maybe decrease our profits a little bit. And it's not that like we're just the ad piece. So I'm trying to get away from being like the complete driver of profit because there's so many things that go into, but it does give us a good idea. Hey, this is where if we maybe push product number 2 that has a higher impact on profits, then the end resulting increases for the business probably.
Yeah, I think that's a great approach. It has to be a collaboration when a brand is working with an agency because we do full account management as well, and we still don't have full insight into all the variables that affect profit, including manufacturing and manufacturing cost, shipping or logistics, and the costs associated with that, storage, etc., as well as some of those costs are variable, like logistics costs, and have been wildly variable for the past couple of years. Yeah, it has to be a back and forth when you're working with when a brand is working with an outside partner, because obviously Amazon doesn't have access to all that data or the profitability data to marry it with the revenue data.
Yeah. When you're 80-20ing it, say you find like the top 20%, or like you're saying, I would agree with the assessment. A lot of times it's a 10%, 20. It depends on how big the catalog is, but there's normally a very clear stair-step spread on top revenue drivers. So like when you're faced with that, you're like, okay, so this is the ones that if I'm going to put it in more effort, it's not saying that, like you said in the post, it's not like we're not touching the rest of the catalog, not what's happening. We're still doing good due diligence, making sure we're moving the needle forward as much as we can. But if we're going to, like you're saying, market analysis or other things that just take a lot of time and effort, which is how you get the best results. So you should be putting in the time and effort. But if you're going to put it in where the best impact is, so what would be the things that if you're like, all right, so time and effort spent, I need to put extra energy into these. What does that look like?
Yeah, so putting it into the top, I think, and it also illustrates why you don't put this into the bottom, like running split tests on titles, running main image split tests, obviously auditing your content, looking at customer questions and reviews. What do people care about when they're buying your product, and when they get it, how do you need to update your content to speak to the customer, your target customer, so that you can convert them better, and that to ensure that they are a right fit for your product. And so putting that time and effort in can drive meaningful revenue. But if your listing is getting very few sessions or glance views every month, running a split test is not going to do anything for you. So that time that you took to come up with an alternate title isn't going to do anything. The time that you took to create an alternate image and run the split test isn't going to yield meaningful results. Yeah, if you already have a second image, okay, you could run a split test, but it could be statistically irrelevant.
Yeah, that's a really good. Even when we're thinking about things like Amazon advertising, if you're testing a specific keyword, you only get a couple clicks on it. Maybe you get 5 clicks on sale. You're like, oh, this is an amazing return. Look at this sub 5% ACoS. And yes, but statistically, do you really have enough information to make that call? I would say no.
Actually, we just on a sales call earlier today going over an ad audit, and the agency this brand was working with recommended investing more in sponsored display. The problem was they took a shotgun approach, and they just generally, save 1 or 2 ASINs, spent a lot of money, or spent money on almost every ASIN in the catalog on sponsored, which was just a mistake. A lot of the ASINs were spending $25, $50 a month and not getting any sales. Okay, on one ASIN, that's not terrible, but when you have 30 ASINs that are doing that, it's just a waste of money. Yeah, it adds up quickly. So instead, investing a majority of that spend in the top sellers, which are going to perform better anyway, and then have a lot more for like retargeting on sponsored display. Perform better with offensive targeting on sponsored display makes a lot more sense. It's like a classic example where, hey, you just reallocate your ad dollars and spend them better on the top of your catalog will drive more revenue and make you more profitable.
Yeah, absolutely. And then that kind of goes back to the market analysis, which we already said is important, tedious, is okay, so how much more potential do you have in the market, which again can be pushed through ads. So sometimes you'll have a product where I'm running on all cylinders, like we have all our top keywords, we've actually crushed it. Maybe we're running retargeting ads, all right, so we've completely tapped this, let's go into DSP. But then you'll also have, again, maybe subsets of your catalog at the top where like you're like there's a lot of untapped, like we have everything running, like it's good, but there's always ways you can build out, oh, this is a top ranking keyword for me, all right, single keyword campaigns driving to drive more traffic, to drive more rankings. And what we're saying is, like, if you have a lot of data, which goes back to the top sales, those are the ones that have all the data, they have the product market fit. If you have the data to better make those decisions, it just makes sense because you can move quicker, you can be more confident of where you're moving, how you're moving, and then can be relatively certain of those outcomes versus the things that, you know, like maybe you've tested 5 keywords and one of them worked and you got 5 clicks in it. Do you really have enough information to, again, confidently, aggressively push this and know you're going to drive the results you want? I would argue, like, not really, not that you shouldn't test it, but you should be more wary of those tests.
Yeah, or aggregate them so that you're more efficient. As you spend more and more, you want to try to be a little more granular. So maybe on the bottom of your catalog, obviously, we're talking in extreme generalities here. It doesn't mean you don't touch the other 80 or 90%, but it, maybe we're talking about the bottom 20, 25% that's barely generating revenue. Maybe you start pulling those together, just focusing on auto campaigns, see where some opportunities are, getting that data back, and then taking the next step. Okay, these keywords and ASINs are performing. Let's build out some manual campaigns for them, as opposed to just trying to do everything all at once with the hope that it will work out. So it's just like building gradually on that bottom part of the catalog so that you don't waste time and effort and money.
Yeah. Yeah, I would very much agree with that. I think if you're running an account, we're talking about advertising, like the best performance you're going to get is by targeting keywords that are highly relevant to your product, that you have good conversion rates on, and putting them into campaigns in a structure that allows you to have good control and be able to direct budget in a way that you can have good visibility on them. I have yet to see like there is no like push button, get this done. Oh, we've identified that these have the best, and so we're going to put these with if you have a variation listing with the pink one, like you're going to target all the pink keywords. That's a manual. It's a very, if we're being honest, very tedious and very manual process still. I know there's software out there that claim that they can put everything in the right buckets. I have yet to see a good one that does. Like, they can get pretty close. You can get pretty good systems, but again, it's a time and effort thing. And if you can put time and effort into something, you can be relatively guaranteed of the return. To me, then it just makes sense.
And also, there's not just one way to do everything. So sometimes it makes more sense to go with structure A versus structure B. And in other instances, it makes more sense to go with structure B and structure A. And so, like, part of that is just a learning process on every account. Just because account A and B, or just because account X and Y are similar, doesn't mean the same strategy in terms of campaign organization will work on both accounts. So you often have to test and see what does work, and that takes time. And again, you don't want to invest that time and effort if it's not going to generate meaningful revenue or results.
Yeah, that's a really great point. I think we've seen those instances where you go into the account and you're like, all right, I'm going to test this is best practice. I know it should be set up this way. And you test it and you're like, why is this not working? Like, by all good practices, it should be. And the end result is it's not working. So now you need to use thinking and creativeness to get something in place that is working, or figure out a better structure. Like you were saying, okay, so maybe we shouldn't run it the way we run it for most things. Maybe we need to adjust for that. But again, that takes being able to identify where you're running those tests, keeping on top of them, and then being creative and allowing to adjust for it, which again, all just takes thought power and time. So I think it makes sense to focus.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Awesome. I have really appreciated this discussion. You've given me a lot to think about with the time frames in 80/20. I'm probably gonna go back and dig into that a little
Yeah.
bit. So I
No,
appreciate you
it's
being
a
on.
great combo, and
Well,
there's just so much you can do here. There's no one right way to do it. I think the key is just mindful of it, making sure that you're doing it, this analysis at least periodically, whatever that means, for the brain agency to give the appropriate direction.
yeah, absolutely. So before you go, I am going to somewhat put you on the spot, although I did give you a warning. We do have a really quick little lightning round, just quick 5 questions. I always find there's something interesting that comes out of this.
Ready.
So if you're ready. All right. So the first one is ACOS or taco?
Well, I love Mexican food, and I love tacos. Profitability is key at the end of the day, and that should be driving the overall direction. And tacos is a much better and more precise measure of profitability.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. So dynamic up and down bidding or placement percentages?
I don't like trusting Amazon to not only give me Amazon that much control over my money. So I would say
Respect that.
placement percentages, also because you can drive good performance through top of search. You can really move the needle on your organic rank.
Yeah. All right. So the next one would be, what was the last campaign you were doing?
So we're testing out the sponsored display video, seeing that remarketing is getting the most traffic, but still think they got to build more inventory and build it into the algorithm a little better.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what they do with that. It'll be interesting long term. They have some cool things in the pike. All right. So the second to last one is, what's your favorite new Amazon ad feed?
That's a good question. In general, I really like that they're opening up more data. I like that they're giving more impression share data. But I do think that, and just more reporting data like you took, basis on advertising, but just more data in general, and then more video advertising. So we just talked about sponsored display video. Video is very, very engaging, and historically, I think Amazon has underutilized it on the marketplace. It's exciting to see them up more video ad inventory.
Yeah, I agree. Very, very cool. It'll be a while, but I expect 2023 to have some really cool things. Who knows what they'll throw at us, but I'm interested. All right. And very last question before I let you go would be, if you could change one thing about the Amazon ad platform, what would you change?
More transparency into bidding. I don't think it actually works the way everyone says it works. I think there's like waiting for brands in their own branded search. So I think it would be nice to know more about that and how that works. But right now, it's really just like a suggested bid is really the most transparency you get into that. So I think it would help advertisers be more effective, and there's a level of additional information they can reveal without like giving away the secret sauce.
Yeah, we definitely do have to infer a lot when it comes to any algorithm on Amazon. But yeah, definitely the bidding auction. I mean, I think we've all had those where we try and test the relevant keyword, and it's like, you can't show up with a $20 bid, and you're like, really? How does that work?
Doesn't make any sense. Or it's like the recommended bid is $20 and you bid $1, but you're still getting meaningful impressions. You're like, but where's the disconnect?
Yeah, very cool. I have really appreciated this conversation. Again, thanks so much for coming on. I will make sure to link your LinkedIn as well as your agency Nectar. So if you're looking for full service management, definitely recommend you.
Well, thank you very much for having me, and I really enjoyed the combo.